Amara had just started as a maid, quiet, invisible, the kind of worker no one really noticed. But one night, inside the billionaire's mansion, everything changed. She found his little girl collapsed, barely breathing. The halls were silent. No staff, no guards, no one to help. Desperate, Amara dialed every number she could, but not a single call went through. With fear clawing at her chest, she made a choice no maid should ever dare. She broke into the billionaire's locked office. Inside, she snatched his car keys and a bundle of cash. Without a second thought, she raced the child through the night, praying she wasn't too late. But the alarms had already been triggered. Security tracked her down within minutes, surrounding her in the hospital. She was dragged away in handcuffs until the doctor pulled billionaire Alexander aside. What he revealed froze him to the core, and what happened next shocked everyone watching. Before we dive deeper, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive. And if this one moves you, share it with a friend. You never know who needs to hear it. Now, let's begin. Amara Hayes didn't storm into the Lancaster mansion. She entered quietly, like a soft knock at a door that no one was expecting to answer. It had been 3 days since she started working there. Nobody questioned why she kept her laces tight or why her knuckles were always cracked. They simply handed her a mop, showed her the small room for the staff, and moved on. The Lancaster estate was more than a home. It was a fortress of white pillars and glass walls tucked deep into the hills. Its gates didn't just keep danger out. They kept stories like hers out as well. Alexander Lancaster, the man who owned it all, rarely spoke to the staff. Not unless they were holding something valuable or breaking something irreplaceable. He ran tech companies, traded stocks across 5 countries, and lived as though emotions were a liability. His world wasn't cold. It was temperature controlled. And then there was Vivian, his 10-year-old daughter, fragile as spun glass, yet burdened by sickle cell. She barely spoke to anyone, chefs, chauffeurs, even her father. Most days, she stayed upstairs in the sunroom, wrapped in soft sweaters and silence. Amara noticed, of course she did. Vivian's footsteps were soft shuffles. Her smiles were fleeting, cracking like dry paint. Yet nobody looked closely. They made sure her medicine was ready, the rooms were spotless, and her meals were warm. That was enough. Amara wasn't supposed to ask questions, but they whispered in her mind anyway. Why had the nurse left early last night? Why had the girl been trembling near the bathroom yesterday? Why didn't anyone flinch? On her 4th morning, Amara carried a breakfast tray up to the 2nd floor. She paused outside Vivian's room, knocked once, no answer. She opened the door slowly. Vivian was on the floor, curled up, eyes wide, breathing shallow, hands tucked under her small frame as if shielding herself from the world. Amara froze in the doorway, not in panic, not in fear, but in quiet, frozen recognition of something terribly wrong. Just a strange, heavy stillness hung in the room. Amara set the tray down without a word, without a question. She simply sat cross-legged beside Vivian, quiet. After what felt like an eternity, Vivian whispered, "It hurts today." Amara nodded. That moment didn't change the world. Not yet. But something shifted. Something soft, invisible, delicate. Downstairs, in the service hallway, near the laundry chute, two older maids whispered over folded towels. "I give her a week," one said, smoothing out a sheet. "She's too soft for this place. She's seen struggle," the other muttered, eyes narrowing, voice low. "And struggle doesn't last long around here." They chuckled, then looked up. Amara passed silently behind them, arms full of pillowcases. She said nothing, but heard every word. That evening, the mansion glowed in golden light. Alexander arrived home late. Vivian didn't greet him, nor did he expect her to. Amara cleaned the upstairs study, her eyes drawn to the locked office door at the far end. The security sensors blinked above it. High clearance. Off limits. Not her business. Yet even from outside, she could hear a faint, persistent ticking. Maybe it was the clock. Or maybe it was time itself, waiting to run out. The morning was heavy. Storm clouds hung low over the hills, casting a gray shadow over the mansion, even with all the lights blazing. Alexander had flown out just before sunrise. Zurich, Singapore, somewhere that didn't require goodbyes. Amara moved through her routine with practiced precision. Yet something felt wrong. Vivian hadn't come down for breakfast. By 9 a.m., the head maid was fussing over a detergent order gone wrong. By 10 o'clock, the other staff were polishing the outdoor patio for some high-profile dinner scheduled next week. And Vivian? Nobody mentioned her. Amara paused outside her room, her chest tightening. She knocked twice, no answer. Slowly, she opened the door, and time seemed to halt. Vivian was halfway off the bed, drenched in sweat. Her hands shook violently, lips dry, body curling unnaturally as if waging a battle within itself. The room smelled sharp, plastic and fear. Amara dropped to her knees beside her. Vivian's eyelids fluttered. Her breath came ragged, as if she were inhaling through shards of glass. Amara's own hands trembled. She reached for the emergency call button on the wall. Nothing. She sprinted to the hallway phone, dialing the nurse on record, straight to voicemail. She called Alexander. Rings. 5. Then nothing. She tried again and again. Still nothing. Frustration and panic burned in her chest. She slammed the receiver down. Downstairs, the other maids were laughing near the pantry, oblivious. Amara burst into the hallway, breath ragged, eyes wide. "I need someone, anyone to help. Vivian's sick. We don't go upstairs without clearance," one said, not even looking up. "She needs a hospital now," Amara snapped. The second maid waved her off, irritated. "We'll inform the estate manager." That's the process. Process. Amara's fingers curled into fists. She spun on her heel and ran back upstairs. Vivian was barely conscious, her chest rising too fast, too shallow. Amara's gaze darted to the far end of the hall, the locked office, Alexander's private office. She'd never been inside, but she had cleaned around it enough to notice something most wouldn't. A tiny keyhole above the doorknob, and the key always hanging from a red tag beside the basement cleaning supplies. She remembered it was labeled "Do Not Remove," but she did. She ran downstairs, snatched the key, unseen by anyone, and sprinted back. The door clicked open. Silence enveloped the room. Leather, glass, money, framed awards, a wall safe, a Tesla key fob on the polished desk, and beside it, a black clip vat with $100 bills. She hesitated, only for a moment. Amara scooped Vivian into her arms, trembling, not from fear, but from the effort of carrying a sick child half her size. She bolted down the hall. Every corner of the mansion seemed to scream at her. The cameras, the blinking lights, the invisible rules. She didn't care. Bursting through the front door, she cradled Vivian like fragile glass and dashed toward the garage. The Tesla recognized the key instantly. The door hissed open. Soft white seats glowed warmly. Amara laid Vivian gently across the passenger seat, buckled her in, and whispered, "Hold on." Then she climbed in, slammed the door, and stomped on the accelerator. Tires screamed as the car roared out of the estate. Back at the mansion, alarms blared. Security screens flared red. Unauthorized access. Office breach. Vehicle missing. Inside the Tesla, Amara's fingers gripped the wheel like iron. Her breath came in short, ragged gasps. Vivian's head lolled back. Her skin had turned gray. The GPS blinked insistently, but she ignored it. She knew the fastest hospital, not the closest, the best. Traffic blurred past, horns screamed, and her heart pounded louder than the road beneath her. In her mind, she repeated it like a prayer. Hold on. Just hold on. Behind her, two black SUVs roared out of the mansion gates. Security had already tracked her. She had no idea they were coming. The hospital entrance appeared, glowing sterile white. The Tesla screeched to a halt in the emergency lane. Amara didn't wait. She leapt out, flung the door open, unbuckled Vivian, and carried her as if she weighed nothing, though every step felt like dragging a mountain uphill. "Help!" she gasped, bursting through the sliding doors. "Please, someone. She's got sickle cell. She can't breathe." Nurses rushed forward. A crash cart followed. Vivian was laid onto a gurney like a porcelain doll, her limbs unnaturally still. Doctors shouted in clipped urgency. "Parent or guardian?" someone asked. "I'm the maid. I'm the maid," Amara said. There was no one else, and they didn't question her. They wheeled Vivian away at a frantic pace. Suddenly, silence. Just Amara, standing alone in the blindingly white lobby, the weight of everything pressing down on her. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to drive. She wasn't supposed to touch the money. She wasn't supposed to matter. But none of those rules had helped Vivian. And now, the weight had turned real. Outside, tires screeched. Two black SUVs slid to a halt, flanking the hospital's entrance. Estate security poured out. Men in matching navy jackets, radios at their shoulders, faces tight and unreadable. They didn't shout. They didn't ask questions. One pointed. "That's her." Amara didn't run. She didn't flinch. She turned slowly as they approached. They surrounded her silently, wrists already cuffed before she could blink. A nurse shouted from inside the sliding doors. "Hey, what are you doing?" "She just brought in a patient." One of the guards replied coldly. "She stole a billionaire's vehicle and cash. She's under arrest." 15 minutes later, Alexander Lancaster arrived. Gray suit, sleeves rolled, eyes cold. He walked in as though he owned the building, which, in some ways, he probably did. The head of security approached. "She's in holding. Local PD is en route." We recovered the vehicle, still counting the cash. The girl, she's just stabilizing now. Barely got her in time." Alexander said nothing. Jaw flexed, hands in his pockets. He just stood there, still. A doctor stepped forward, mid-50s, calm but firm. "You're Alexander Lancaster," the doctor said. He nodded. The doctor exhaled slowly. "Mr. Lancaster, I need you to understand something. Your daughter has sickle cell. When a crisis hits, minutes matter. Seconds. Even if that young woman hadn't gotten her here when she did." He paused. "She would have died." The word hung in the air, alien and heavy. Alexander blinked. Once, twice. Your phones were off. Staff unreachable. Security protocols too slow. That girl saved her. Not you. Not your systems. Her. The doctor walked away. Alexander remained, staring at the floor tiles in the small, cold holding room down the hall. Amara sat there, hands still cuffed, shoulders tense, sweat drying on her neck. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just stared at the wall. The door opened. She turned slowly. Alexander stepped in. Alone. No guards. No lawyers. For the first time, he truly looked at her. She met his gaze, eyes red, but unafraid. For a long moment, silence. Then he reached into his pocket, producing a small silver key, and uncuffed her wrists. No words. "Come with me," he said quietly. She didn't move. "She's asking for you," he added. The hallway leading to room 214 was eerily quiet. Too quiet for a place that had just witnessed life hanging by a thread. Alexander walked ahead. Amara followed, steps light but hesitant, as if the floor might vanish beneath her. Inside the room, Vivian lay tucked under a sea of pale blue blankets, and Ford dripped slowly feeding her. Her breathing had steadied, softer now. Tiny fingers tapped against the blanket, as if counting something only she could hear. When she saw Amara, her face brightened for a fleeting moment. "Tasha," she whispered, the only voice in the room that asked nothing of her. Amara stepped forward, taking her hand gently. Alexander stood back, watching quietly. Later that evening, as the sky turned pink and city lights blinked awake, something shifted. Alexander walked out of the hospital room, not as a billionaire, but as a father who had finally witnessed someone else rise when he hadn't. Guilt weighed heavily on his chest. By morning, the story had begun to spread online. Not the truth, just whispers. Black Maid arrested for stealing billionaire's car. Possible kidnapping sources say daughter was in critical condition. People didn't wait for context. They fed on assumptions. But by noon, something no one expected happened. A press release from Alexander Lancaster's office announcing he would make a public statement that evening, live. It caught everyone off guard, including his staff. That night, cameras flashed. Reporters jostled for position on the Lancaster lawn. The mansion gates opened like a stage curtain. Alexander stood behind the podium, no tape, no assistant whispering notes. Beside him, Amara, not in uniform, but in a simple gray dress pressed on her just minutes before. Hair pulled back, shoulders square, hands trembling slightly. Alexander inhaled, then spoke. "Last night, my daughter nearly died. The only reason she's alive today is because of the woman standing beside me. She broke rules, Yes, but sometimes rules are the problem. No one else acted. No one else ran. No one else cared the way she did. Amara Hayes did what I couldn't, and the world should know her name. A pause. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Camera shutters clicked in rapid fire. Effective immediately, he continued. Amara will not only remain in my household, she will never work as a maid again. I've created a trust in her name, and she will oversee our family's medical outreach foundation going forward. Amara turned toward him, stunned. He wasn't done. Because if we are going to build systems that protect children like my daughter, they need to be led by people who act, not just speak. Inside the mansion that night, the whispers were different. "She's staying," one staff member murmured from behind a curtain. "More than staying," another replied. "She's running things now." Amara walked past them and smiled, not out of spite, but because for the first time, she wasn't walking on eggshells. She was walking on her ground. Vivian recovered slowly, growing stronger every week, her laughter echoing through the same walls that once tried to silence the girl who saved her. They had called her just a maid, but now she was the woman who rewrote the rules. The billionaire who once didn't see her was the first to stand beside her when the world finally did. Sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who show up when it counts. Amara wasn't just a maid. She was the reason a little girl got a second chance at life. Next time you're tempted to judge someone by their position, remember what she risked and what she became. Real heroes don't wait for permission. They act